This girl was only 11 years old, but she created a world without guns. That day, Lisa mourned a young man who had been shot to death. So Lisa called a meeting to promote the idea of banning guns. The crowd was very supportive, so they began to line up to hand over their guns in exchange for more money. At this point, Bart also began to hand over his gun, and Homer was very sad to hand over his gun. Even the police handed over their guns. Then they began to celebrate. Just then, John crawled out from under the ground. Soon, their guns were converted into entertainment facilities. The mayor announced that there was no longer any need for defense. But then John appeared before them. Lisa was very shocked. John gathered his companions and prepared to rob the poor of their money. Homer hid in the bar but was discovered. John made Homer play the piano, Maggie play the cello, and Bart and Lisa sing. At that moment, the professor pulled Homer into the laboratory and brought out the time machine. So Homer traveled back to the time of Lisa's speech and explained to the crowd what would happen in the future. Then the crowd all took out their guns. They arrived at John's grave and fired wildly. At that moment, John crawled out of the ground but was chased away by the crowd. They achieved victory. Just then, the future Homer traveled back in time and stated that gun violence had destroyed the Earth in the future, but he was killed by the crowd. He picked up the time machine and traveled to the future.